Yo, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to this brand new episode of Hockeytown Rundown. You're here with us, your beautiful host, once again, Carlo and Zach. Carlo, it's a holiday weekend. I don't think you guys are celebrating, right? Just a American holiday? Or what are you guys doing this weekend? You got an extended?
Well, so last weekend was the Canadian version of the weekend you guys have, which was nice. It was nice. We had the Monday. It was a great Monday. Weather was nice, and we're right back at it, man. The weather's pretty bomb today too. So I'm like looking at literally a blue sky. So we're getting on a bike today, buddy. We're going for a rip today, and I'm pumped. I am pumped. How about you, buddy? What's going on?
Don't get injured like your boy here, okay?
Yeah,
Be safe as always. But with me,
how you doing over there?
I'm chilling, bro. I'm chilling. Today's actually a pretty good day. Still tough to walk, but on the bright side, my brand new car came in yesterday, so I'm very excited about that. It's a nice ride. I'm a Subaru owner for life. You can crack the jokes all you want. That's okay. I will ride with those jokes all day long.
I have been giving him the gears on the Subaru, folks. So pile on if you want. And people like to do that, but I've been giving it to him.
Yeah, overall, no, it's a good weekend. And then going to my aunt's and maybe a little pool therapy for the leg. That's going to help out a little bit. So I can't complain. Like you said, it's really nice outside. I got the tank top on, spend a lot of time with the dogs this weekend, catch up on some cleaning and everything. So, Carlo, let's go ahead and jump into everything that we have on this episode based on the thumbnail and the title of this episode. You guys are aware that we will be going over some of the free agent players in this year's free agency class of the 2025 NHL season and seeing where exactly we see them fitting with the Red Wings, how we see them on a tier level, right? Where we would want them and how badly we want them, if it's a need, a want, or just something that we would just like overall, or just push them over to the side. So, Carlo, let's go ahead and jump into that. And actually, before we do, we want to stop and say thank you to everyone for stopping by on this brand new episode. Once again, if you are returning, we definitely appreciate it. If you are brand new, thanks for joining us on this brand new episode. If you haven't already, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and then hit that notification bell if you are viewing this on YouTube. That lets you know when these brand new episodes come out. And then all of our good short videos that we are creating for you guys for more content through this offseason of the NHL with the playoffs going on. And Carlo, we will touch on the playoffs as well as some of the world's championships that are going on currently. So, Carlo, we're also on Spotify. If you didn't know that, I think you knew that, but for everyone else, I don't think they knew that. But yes, we are on Spotify. We are on Apple. Why don't you guys go ahead, ladies and gentlemen, I should say, not just guys, but go ahead and hit that rate 5 stars. I almost said the like button. Rate us the 5 stars. Hit that follow button on both those. And then obviously you can follow us on all of our socials. We're really big on TikTok now. Carlo's doing a fantastic job at that. We are really trying to get more engaged on Instagram as well. So if you guys aren't following us on Instagram, why don't you guys go ahead and do that as well at Hockeytown Rundown, I believe it is. But you'll be able to find us on there nonetheless. And everything is also in our link tree on all of our social medias, as well as our profiles of YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Carlo, before we jump into everything, first and foremost, there is a Red Wings fan out there in a bit of a situation. Us as animal lovers, we couldn't let this go unnoticed. And with that being said, we want to give a shout out to Emma over here. Decided to create a GoFundMe for her good friend Kirsten, another fellow Red Wings fan, for her dog Archie, who unfortunately has a dangerous autoimmune disorder right now. Once again, Carlo, us being dog lovers, I know you have your dog. I got my 2 dogs. Red Wings fans alike, this really does hit home for us. Yep. I couldn't imagine something like this happening to one of my fur babies, my babies in general. I'm sure you would agree with that. But nonetheless, for you nutty Red Wings fans out there, why don't you go ahead and show the love and appreciation to Emma and Kirsten for Archie, who desperately need your help right now more than ever. And you can go to this GoFundMe link right here by Emma. She is at Catboy Cider online on Twitter. I'll actually go ahead and share the GoFundMe page right here. They're actually doing a really good job at raising that money, Carlo. I will be donating as well. I think our podcast will be donating as well. Every little bit helps. $5, $1, whatever you guys can do. It truly does go a long way in helping Archie and Kirsten getting back into the spirit of things, especially in this offseason. It's summertime. Poor Archie. Kirsten, I hope everything goes well with Archie. You guys are fighters, but if you guys can, please go ahead and donate to Archie and Kirsten.
You know what? I'll just talk right to Red Wings faithful, man. Like, you've been online for so long, following and trying to, take part in all the conversations and whatnot. But if there's one thing that I think Red Wing fans do, is they really do a good job sticking together, bonding together, and showing up when things like this go on. And differences aside, I mean, we're talking about a dog here. Look at that dog, first of all. Just an absolute beauty.
So cute.
Great name, too. We got to help out, and we got to make sure this dog can see, this Red Wings team once again, hopefully for a lot more seasons. I mean, I believe Archie's 2 years old, or not even 2 years old. I mean, there's a good chance Archie could see, with the help of everybody, of course, the Red Wings get pretty deep into the postseason as well, with kind of what's in store and what's coming and all that jazz. Wings fans, do what you do the thing. Let's come together and let's help these folks out. Let's help Archie out. And we're wishing you the best of luck. Absolutely.
All right, Carlo, let's go ahead and jump into everything that we have today. And so, let's go ahead and touch on some Red Wings news. And it's actually correlated with the Toronto Maple Leafs, because the Toronto Maple Leafs, for those who may live under a rock or just unaware, that the Toronto Maple Leafs were once again knocked out of the NHL playoffs. I think that's the seventh time in 7 years that they've lost a game 7 or something crazy like that, Carlo. I mean, it's been 9 seasons. They haven't been able to make it to even a conference final. And so with that being said, Carlo, Brendan Shanahan under a lot of scrutiny right now. And so a lot of Red Wings fans are making claps saying, come back home, come to Detroit, the motherland, so to say. Initial reaction to that thought amongst some Red Wings fans, Carlo.
I mean, listen, I love Shanny the player. He was one of my all-time favorite players when I was a kid. He was great. The jerseys, all that stuff. Like, again, one of my all-time favorite players. But like, what is he coming here to do? You know what I mean? Like, this front office is already loaded with the good old boys club, like loaded. So do we add to that? And what is he bringing with him? People would argue that, he helped put together a really good team in Toronto. And I don't think I would dispute that. They're a pretty talented team, but they don't have any dogs. They're not, obviously, like, you look at the Florida Panthers. I mean, those guys, the whole team is a dog, like up and down that lineup. We can get into that later, but I just don't know what he's really accomplished for Toronto.
Fair.
Like, now, one thing I know a lot of Wings fans are like, they talk about is pro scouting. What's going on with pro scouting? Like, if Shanny were to come back to Detroit in a role that was pro scouting, and he was maybe, head of pro scouting or in charge of that, okay, I can see that potentially. But then again, it's like, what has he really done in the pro scouting world as well? I mean, he got really lucky with some draft picks.
Yeah.
And he hit on them.
Yep.
So for me, I don't know. I don't really know. I don't think it's detrimental that Shanny comes back, and I don't think if we don't get Shanny that it's detrimental to the Wings. So I guess I'm impartial. What about you? What's your take on that?
Yeah, for me, I guess I'm a little with you there. I mean, you look at it even from a regular season perspective. Not once did they win a President's Trophy, right? Pro scouting, I mean, outside of drafting really well, they were really good at retaining the really good players that they had. Right. So Austin Matthews, they were able to get John Tavares. I mean, people will say, well, he's so tied to them, it was easy for them. Okay, sure. You could say that. I mean, Austin Matthews, William Nylander, even someone like Morgan Riley, you can toss out there. They were able to get Stolars, however you want to pronounce it. I know I'm going to get flack if I say it wrong, so I'm going to say it right. I'll catch myself there.
But I love it.
But you get what I'm saying, right? At least so they made attempts. I mean, you can't go out, and it's the same with every team, and just kind of correlating with the Red Wings. Yes, we want every good player that hits free agency, but you can't always get them, right? Because you're going up against the 31 or 30 other NHL teams that were in the league at that time, right? So, yeah. But I agree with you. And I look at it from this perspective that I just don't believe that there's actually any room for Shanahan. You would basically have to create something random, much like you did for Nicholas Lidstrom, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
I mean, so there was rumblings that he was potentially going to the Islanders, right?
Correct.
And that got pretty much shut down because the GM that they did take on is also taking on kind of the VP of hockey operations as well. So I don't know if Shanahan's role, like, I feel like he's sort of typecasted himself into this role that I'm not convinced teams really need. If he's searching to continue that role with other teams, I'm just not convinced that teams truly even need that role. You have a GM, you have your executives around him. What's the point of reporting to a guy above you. Like, are you the GM then? Like, that's what I like. If I'm a general manager, like I'm the GM, why am I reporting to somebody else? I'm the general man. I'm going to make this team as I see fit. Why do I need to go and talk to somebody else? It just seems like a really weird role to have in. Like, I don't know. I just, like I said, that's what I mean. Like, what's he coming in as?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a very good chance, too, that he actually takes time off, right? And waits for that better opportunity, right? Because, I mean, yeah, the Islanders are getting the first overall pick, but is that really a destination that someone like Brendan Shanahan would want to go to? Outside of from the players, I mean, it's the same thing for upper management, too. They have to like the place that they're going to want to go to and work for, right? Does he want to live on the island?
Huge.
So we don't know that. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like both of us agree that it just seems like that there really isn't a fit for Shanahan here. Would we love him here? I absolutely would, but I just don't think that there is a fit currently right now unless Steve Yzerman got canned. Maybe then I'd say, okay, maybe bring on Shanahan or Chris Draper or something. I don't know, man. But let us know down in the comments what you think about the Brendan Shanahan situation, if you would like for him to come back to the Red Wings organization or not. Carlo.
Just to be clear, though, like, it's not that I'm against Shanny. I don't understand his role. That's all it is. It's more against the role. Like, what's the point of that? But Shanny, I mean, I love Shanny. Shanny, if you're watching, I love you, dude. You're one of my all-time favorites all times.
You got his jersey back there, don't you?
No disrespect. No, I don't have a Shanny jersey. Not one that I have mounted or anything. I have one hung up that I still wear to games often, but not one that's signed, sealed, and delivered.
Shanahan, if you're watching or listening, we would love signed jerseys from you.
Yeah, dude, like, absolutely. I'll add it to the shrine tomorrow.
I'll add it.
No doubt.
I'll add it today, and it doesn't get to me for another week. It's added today.
I'll put the frame. I'll just put like the cutout of where it's going to go.
Man. All right, Carlo, let's talk about some of the World Championship that's going on. So it's been done. The final is set. It's USA versus Switzerland. And then for the bronze, it's Sweden versus Denmark. Earlier, I said Denver. I almost just did it again, too, awesome. On this recording. Awesome. But currently, that bronze medal game is actually live. It says it's still 0-0 in the first period. So we're waiting for that to kind of get going. But touching on some of the players, you got Eric Gustafsson in this game. He's got 6 points in the 9 games played. You got Simon Evanson still with 1.9 games played. He's a +2, though, so he's doing very well defensively. And then you have Lucas Raymond. I don't even have the words to say here.
Speechless.
Dude, yeah, he has been doing really well.
Yeah.
It's 10 points in his 9 games, 4 goals, 6 assists. He's a +8, 2 game-winning goals. Carlo, and this is no, discredit to some people who also do the same thing as we do, but I heard the question, would you label Lucas Raymond's season as a disappointment?
That's actually a good question, Zach. If you're looking for a lot of goals from a one player, like if you're looking for a ton of goals, maybe. But if you're looking for like a player that truly sets up some high caliber plays, and without the sequence that he is leading, those goals that whoever scores don't happen, then no, absolutely it's not disappointing, because he's really showing off the fact that he is an elite playmaker. His deception, the way he draws players towards him, that opens up space for some other guys. You have to be pretty well respected to draw players to you when you have the puck and command their attention. So for me, I wouldn't say it's a disappointment. I would have obviously liked, and I'm sure many people would have liked to see him score some more, only because, 2 seasons ago when we were down to the last minute of a game, those 2 games against Montreal, like he came in so clutch with actually scoring goals. Like he came in so clutch. So I think people had this idea that, oh my God, Raymond's going to be, Mr. Clutch. And I still think he is. He just shifted from being the one that's putting it into the net to the guy that's allowing you to put it into the net by creating some very high level plays. So to answer your question, no, I don't think it was a disappointment. I just think it was a different take and a different look of what Lucas Raymond's skill set is. And it's honestly a good sign. Like, we've seen him score some big goals and we've seen him set up some really big plays. You always want a player that can do both, right?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I love the fact that he was able to develop into more of a playmaker, because like you said, we've seen him shoot and score, right? He can put up the 30 goals in a season. We've seen that before. I actually believe that there is an opportunity for him to be a 40-goal scorer in his career. I think that's very much doable, but it comes down to who you're playing with at the end of the day, right? I mean, yes, it was nice to see Marco Kasper get up there. We've seen Alex DeBrincat up there, but as we continue dwindling down into this episode, that can be a lot better for someone like Lucas Raymond, right? I mean, and even during this World Championship, right, we've seen him move over to the left side, right? And so that seems to be just fine working out for him. So, I mean, if there's an opportunity where we understand that the Red Wings' top need would be a top line left winger, right? But do they have to shoot left? Not necessarily. So if you can put someone like Lucas Raymond over to the left, and I'm just throwing out a name, Mitch Marner, obviously, who also shoots right, put him on the right side, I think that would be more than fine. But also thinking about other players who shoot left, maybe they like being on their off wing as well, who shoot
Dude,
left.
I was just going to say, like, players on their off wing, some, like, go off. Like, some of them go off, and some of them actually even prefer it. Watching Raymond play on the left wing, I was like, damn. Like, he looks like a natural out there playing on that left wing. It was a small sample size, don't get me wrong, but he did not look out of place. I can tell you that right now. I find it super ironic that he made this switch to accommodate a Toronto Maple Leaf in William Nylander. I thought that was pretty ironic, but yeah, he looked really good. And I think, again, like, it just comes down to being a testament to Lucas Raymond, the player. He is that good. He's obviously adaptable, and he can make a noticeable impact on either side of the dot. So we gotta love that. And I think that backs it up even more than no, his season was not a disappointment. And if anything, I'm even more excited to watch him get going next season.
Yep.
Let's get into what you were about to get into, and that is this whole free agency that's coming up and the frenzy that we're about to step into. Folks, listen, it's May 25th. Enjoy your quiet time because it is going to erupt very quickly. Have a feeling it's going to start on draft night on the draft floor. Yeah, so enjoy yourselves now because I think it's going to get pretty hot and heavy with this free agency this year. What do you think?
I would agree with you. And we have our screen shared right now, puckpedia.com, their GM access here where you can create your own lineups for the 25-26 and even for future seasons. We are on their UFA list right here. It's by NHL players only. It's based on points right here. So most points all the way down, going down. Obviously, you see the really good names up there immediately, right? The Mitch Marners, the Matt Duchesnes, which we actually never really talked about. John Tavares, Mikhail Granlund, Nikolai Ehlers, Ryan Donato, which is another player we really haven't touched on too much. He's been sprinkled in there maybe around the trade deadline for the Red Wings. You got Patrick Kane on there and some other names. I've heard Brock Nelson's name put out there for the Red Wings, Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, Bozier, but we'll touch on some of these players and see where we rank them in terms of want, need, and yeah, we absolutely need this type of player, or no, just send them out to the trenches, to the gulag type of thing, right, Carlo? So let's go ahead and jump right into this. Carlo, first and foremost, we have to touch on Mitch Marner. That's the first one, right? And so I would say this is someone that it's a need and a want, and it's someone that you absolutely have to go and target. That I do believe that this player would make the Red Wings an instant playoff team. But when I say that, I hesitate saying that. I don't think that that means a deep cup run team. But if you were to take last year's team, carbon copy, made it this season, and you added someone like Mitch Marner, I think Mitch Marner would be that difference maker to push us into a playoff spot. Reminder, not a deep run though. You would have to add more. But based on that alone, I do think, because that's our ultimate goal right now, is to make the playoffs. Obviously, we want to continue that run though, but that's where I would put Mitch Marner. It's a need, want, and that's your first go at guy that you target this offseason for the UFA class. Your thoughts on that, Carlo, or your own opinion, at least?
Okay, so, I mean, real quick, it's the first thing that stands out to me. I mean, you look at the points, which is the third last column. He's literally 20 points clear from the next guy. And he's the only one triple digits. So you're obviously going to do what you got to do to go after a guy like that. When a 100-point player becomes available, you go and you make a pitch. I think you have to do that. Now, the only thing I'm going to preface this is does Mitch Marner make the Red Wings tougher to play against? And I know this is kind of a Steve Yzerman MO type of thing, and he really wants to make this team hard to play against. I'm not convinced Mitch Marner makes the Detroit Red Wings tougher to play against. He's 6 feet tall, $180. I'm not sure if that makes us harder to play against. Now, that doesn't, to me at least, because of the facts I just laid out, 100-point player, 20 points above the rest, just right in that sweet spot of his prime. Do I think that you don't get Mitch Marner because, he's not going to make us tougher to play against? Absolutely not. You still go get him. But now, once you do get him, you got to start getting creative on how you're still going to make the team harder to play against, because that's going to take up quite a bit of cap. So when I say you got to get creative, you got to get creative.
Yeah.
You might have to start packaging some things up that maybe you don't really want to do in order to make this team, again, tougher to play against. But, adding Mitch Marner into the top 6 is huge. But again, like, that top 6 already is pretty small. It's a small top 6. I'm just thinking of Mitch Marner on this team with our current setup playing against the Florida Panthers. We're going to get mauled. You're going to get mauled.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
I'm not saying no. I'm not saying the idea of Mitch Marner is the wrong idea. I think it's a good idea, but there needs to be but what happens with this after that? So we got Marner. It's like, okay, now we got to go and address this. And I'm more interested in what is now we're going to go and address this look like if you were to go and get a Marner, because I think that's equally as important as to signing a guy like him. What about you, man?
Yeah. For me, I hear what you say on the toughness. Now, and I actually mean physicality when it comes to toughness. Now, toughness can mean a few different things, right? It can mean the physicality, but it could also mean the type of play that you bring out on the ice, right? Because I do believe actually that he is someone who is tough to play against, not in the physicality sense though, but in terms of his hockey IQ and the way that he can distribute the puck and be able to even score. I mean, granted, he didn't get 30 goals this season, but 27 is still nothing to joke about, right? I mean, that would still place him top 5 in goal scoring on the Detroit Red Wings right now with those 27 goals, right? And those 75 assists alone. He would be second on the team in points if he didn't even score a single goal, Carlo. So I agree with you, but I also disagree at the same time, where I do believe that he would be tough to play against, but not in the physicality sense. But I would agree with you that if you were able to get a Mitch Marner, you would have to add someone who has that ultimate grit and that type of physicality to bring on this team. Because right now, I mean, currently the only 2 players I can think of off the top of my head, and let me ask you this, I guess, is a good question to ask. Who are the toughest players on our team? And to me, it's Michael Rasmussen and it's Moritz Seider. Outside of that, who's next?
So when I say hard to play against, obviously it's what you're able to execute. But you brought up a good point, because sometimes you don't need to be this big macho guy to be hard to play against. Sometimes you can outperform somebody, and that is what makes you tough to play against. You know what I mean? Like, just with your raw natural skill, silky smooth, whatever you want to call it, sometimes that is very hard to play against. My concern really is the fact that they're smaller, meaning they're going to be so easy to get off the puck. If they don't make the quick pass and they don't connect on it and they don't make, those plays without so many interruptions like we've seen. Like, dude, how many times have we seen a stretch of games where it's like they can't complete 2 passes? You know what I mean? So I'm more looking at it like that. It's like, how easy is this team to get off the puck? And right now, I think we're pretty easy to get off the puck, just because we're not big. We're not big guys, and we're not really connecting all the time on the plays that we want to make. So I just wanted to add that in there, because you brought up a great point. Like, you can beat it with skill. Speed and skill. I totally agree with that. But when you got a guy like Sam Bennett or Brad Marchand on the Florida Panthers coming after you, and they hit you and it hurts. I mean, Brad Marchand's a good example though. He's a small dude too, but he just plays like an animal. But again, like, those guys come at you, and I think they're going to get you off the puck. That's where my money's going anyways. But
I'm going to answer the question that I gave to you, because
I honestly didn't even answer the question, because I totally forgot what it was.
No, and you can after I say it too, but I would say that, I mean, I don't know if I would put him at second or third, because I think it's close, but I would say the hardest physical player that we have is Moritz Seider. 2 and 3, I said Michael Rasmussen, but I would make a case for Marco Kasper. I mean, the way he looked in the Worlds too, Carlo, he was in 8 games, he had 7 points, drove a weak Austria team that deep since 1994. I mean, that's a player that I always said it. A lot of people were like, well, I don't see it out of him, but he gets underneath the skin of his opposing players that he is up.
He's a dog.
Yeah.
He's a dog.
And he's not a big guy either.
Nope. He's like a young Brad Marchand.
I think he'll be our Brad Marchand 2.0, like the light, however you want to claim it, however you want to trademark it and put the title on him. I actually do believe that with Marco Kasper, but that was the question, Carlos. So who would you say are the top 3 most physical players on the Detroit Red Wings right now?
Yeah, I just remembered why I didn't answer it. I thought you nailed it. And then I was thinking about Soderblom, and thinking size, and like, he's hard to get off the puck. He's hard to cover because he's a behemoth. Guy's 6'7". 223, I think. You can't get a guy like that off the puck. You can't even cover a guy like that. He's massive. So I would put him in that category too, because I'm looking at it as who's physically tough, who can, throw you around, but who's also very hard to get off the puck. I would add Soderblom to that. And I love that you added Marco Kasper to that, because I'm totally in agreement there. Like he is a dog, man. Like, and he's so young. Like that's the great part about Kasper. But I'm glad we're talking about Kasper right now, because now we can really look at, everyone's kind of solidifying Kasper as 2C, which I don't disagree with. But let's say Marner goes elsewhere. Say Marner stays in Toronto, or he goes elsewhere, whatever the case is, and you got to pivot to a plan B. Does Marco Kasper get looked at as, okay, plan B is we didn't get a top 3 guy. Now we're going to go and get a top 6 guy, but Kasper's going to be moving up back into that left wing spot.
I think after watching him play in Austria, I would disagree that the Red Wings are very hyper-focused on translating his overall game to the center position and not on the wing. However,
it's not a wrong answer.
Yeah, and however,
100%.
though, we look at the Red Wings system and you look at players like Nate Danielson, who, right, he's been playing top C. He'll play second C down in Grand Rapids too. So that seems more the role that they want him to go as well. We haven't seen Nate Danielson play a single NHL game yet. So it's still unknown there. So could he potentially be someone who's pushed onto the wing? We really don't know yet. What's his ceiling going to be like? Could he potentially be a 2C for us too? And that's a great problem to have. And if that's the case and that happens, then yeah, that's when I would probably say, okay, who's the better center overall and who would be the better winger for that center, right? So
yeah, out of those two, for sure.
Yeah. So then you kind of go from there. So no, I think that was a great call out right there. So, but let's move on to the next player. I actually do want to touch on Matt Duchene a little bit, because like I said, I don't think anyone has actually ever touched on this guy and correlating him to the Red Wings, but I can kind of see why. I mean, it comes down to the age. His points, 82 points, a point per game player this season with the Dallas Stars, who always have been a top team, right? And so,
yeah,
Carlo, I don't even know where to begin, I don't know what kind of offer I would give a player like Matt Duchene, but this is a guy who has been moved around a bunch. I mean, Colorado, he's been to a few number of teams, right?
Yep.
So I think he can bring veteran leadership. I think he can bring maybe like a David Perron replacement type of mentality for this team, but it comes down to the term and the cap, right? What do you give someone who just put up a point per game at 34 years old? Because I don't want to do what Nashville did with Steven Stamkos, right? But I would love to add a Matt Duchene if I could.
Okay, you just took it right out of my mouth. I'm looking at Matt Duchene as last year's Steven Stamkos. And that's not a discredit to Duchene. And you know what? I'll back up. I know for a fact Jim Nill worked his butt off to get Matt Duchene on Dallas. He's a huge fan of Matt Duchene. I just watched a Jim Nill interview recently. I want to say he was with, I think it was either Spit and Chicklets. I think it was Spit and Chicklets that he was on.
Okay. Yeah. We'll just say that.
And you hear this guy, I was going to say Ozzy and Keats, but because I know that there's a relationship there too, but I don't think it was. Not yet, at least. Those guys are doing great. Shout out Ozzy and Keats. But no, Jim Nill's a huge Duchene fan, so I really think he's going to try to get him back just because of what I heard him say, which is possible. But I don't know how much I love the idea of Matt Duchene coming to Detroit. You brought up the term, like that's obviously scary, 34 years old, and no discredit to the age. So any 34-year-olds out there, relax, because I'm also 34. Like, okay, I got lots of pep in my step, all right? But it's just we're talking about roster construction on our team and getting places, and I don't know if that's the move. Because where does he go in the lineup? Like, you have to respect the fact that he put up those points and those numbers, but where is he going in the lineup, and does it just create another type of plug situation? That would be my concern with that.
Yeah, I mean, currently right now, he's playing 2C for them right now in the playoffs currently for the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, like, so I'm thinking, okay, Kasper's 2C. Does Matt Duchene go and become our 3C? It's possible. And I actually don't hate that idea, but what's happening with Kopp and Comfort?
I would push him to the wing personally. I wouldn't use him as center.
Matt Duchene?
Duchene.
So you're thinking like a Duchene, Kasper?
Bring Cat, if you can, or Kane.
Well, Kane's right wing, right?
Well, that doesn't matter, right? Because
Raymond's showing that it doesn't matter.
Right, exactly.
I don't know though, man. That's an interesting one. Like, I don't know if that addresses the I don't know if that. Are you talking Plan B here? Like if Marner's not on the docket anymore, are we just talking Plan B, like what we should do?
I'm just
Or are
saying.
you just literally going down the list?
I'm kind of just going down the list at this point. I mean, just looking at it, because I haven't heard any Red Wing fan or any outlet or really anyone say, okay,
neither.
Matt Duchene, could he be an option for the Red Wings? To us, it kind of sounds like no. And I would agree with you. I think he probably stays with Dallas or goes to a team where there's no tax. Texas doesn't have tax, right? So he pretty much makes that $3 million straight up almost. So
Taxes doesn't have taxes. What's up?
So good for him. But yeah, I mean, I always kind of liked Matt Duchene. I do think that he could bring some good veteran leadership on this team. Obviously, I don't think that he would be a point per game player on the Detroit Red Wings, but if he could put up 50 points, I mean, I guess the only reason why I would add a Matt Duchene is if Patrick Kane, for whatever reason, wasn't wanting to come back to Detroit.
Okay. All right. There we go. That makes sense. But with this, understand, like, I'm looking at this as like Kane's coming back. The usual suspects are returning. Like, that's the way I'm going into these conversations. So, but you brought, if Kane, for whatever reason doesn't come through, then absolutely, bro, you just nailed that. Because then it's like, how do you not go and look at that?
You're right. Right.
I'm with you all day.
John Tavares, Carlo. Instantly, I don't think that there is a fit there with him and the Detroit Red Wings. I think he actually stays a Toronto Maple Leaf.
Yeah,
personally,
for
to
sure.
me, I think he is someone who is primed to say, I will take a pay cut to help out this team to do whatever it takes so that way I can win a cup, we can win a cup, and everyone else is happy. And so we can keep Mitch Marner and Matthew Nyes and whoever else we need to go after. Would you agree with me?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I just don't see it fit.
I think he even said like he's willing to do whatever it takes to make it work and stay in Toronto.
Yeah. So Mikhail Granlund, I mean, this is another player. He's going to get a huge pay upgrade, I think. Maybe not huge. I mean, he's 33 years old, but 63 points in 83 games. He got to play an extra game this season, so good for him. So that probably helps out a little bit. But yeah, with the Dallas Stars too, and they're on that run too. So, I mean, maybe this is someone you could add, but I'm also nervous about maybe not so much the term, but the cap hit as well. And I always look bad at someone like Vladimir Tarasenko, pretty much the same age, could probably command the same cap hits potentially. And then it kind of comes down to, okay, you've been on these runs. Are you going to perform after these runs? Because now your offseason is a little shorter. Do we have the time and patience to wait for someone on a 2-year deal where the first year doesn't work out? Much like a Vladimir Tarasenko. So how does that come into effect? Your thoughts on a Mikhail Granlund?
Yeah, so you know what? It's not even just Granlund, but back to Duchene too. Just I'm looking at the two Dallas Stars players, and I just wonder, like, you remove Dallas Stars from the equation, are these players replicating what they're doing? Which then is your take on Tarasenko?
Yeah, and he's a small player too. He's 5'10", 185 pounds. So it goes against the size and the physicality that we talk about.
Yeah, dude, there's a lot of small guys, eh? Like, holy cow. And that, you know what? That's a big piece for me, man. Like,
and not to mention,
listen,
I just want to throw this out there too.
Yeah, go.
52 games that he played with San Jose. That's where he got most of his points. 45 points. When he got traded to Dallas, he only put up 21 points in 31 games. So he's better technically with San Jose than Dallas, but obviously being traded to a more jam-packed team, I guess we can call it, he got pushed down, right? But right now he's actually playing on the top line. Left wing with Roope Hintz and Mikko Rantanen. Thoughts on that one, Carla?
It's the height and the weight, man. It just keeps getting me. I don't know. I just don't know. Like, I'm not sold on it. I'm just not sold on it. You know what? I'll be honest though, like, and we're going to get to these guys. I'm so locked into Florida Panthers, dude. And looking at Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand, like, I cannot wait to talk about those two, because you're seeing them do what they're doing is just nuts. And I feel like I need to open up a little bit more, because I'm so locked in on Sam Bennett as kind of a plan B for me personally, and even Brad Marchand as well. Because I feel like you might be able to get both for around what Marner gets, but maybe not. I mean, maybe though. I mean, Marchand's 37. I mean,
let's touch on them real quick at this point. We're already talking about them. Let's bring them up. I mean, Brad Marchand, 37 years old, 51 points in 71 games. Sam Bennett, 51 points in 76 games, 28 years old, shoots left, can play center. He plays 2C for the Florida Panthers, currently on their cup run right now. Pretty sure he's up to 16 points, 9 goals in the playoffs as a whole. Is it more?
Always coming in clutch in the playoffs. Always.
I thought you were shaking your head. No, Zach, you're wrong. Okay, I'm glad I got it right off the top of my dome. But yeah, he's always there, dude. And to me, Carlo, last episode with Hockeytown West, if you guys haven't checked out that episode, go ahead and check it out, where we did touch on Sam Bennett. To me, it always comes back to the regular season, right? So he hasn't always been a regular season performer, but when it comes to the playoffs, boy, is he a performer. But Carlo, I made that mention. We haven't even made the playoffs yet. So is this a player that can help push us into the playoffs from the regular season? I think he can help us when we're in the playoffs, but can he help us in the regular season?
Hey, man, that's a real good question and certainly a valid concern. And to answer it, I'm going to say yeah, because I think every single person listening, watching, whatever, would agree that Sam Bennett immediately makes your team harder to play against. And I feel like there's types of players out there that have that dog. We talk about Marco Kasper, who's showing that he's got that dog. When you got guys on your team like that, you're not really looking at him to go and be the goal scorer, but you're looking at him, and I kind of talked about this earlier with Raymond, in terms of being the guy that starts and sets up the sequence. He's a starter. He's a fire starter. He's not necessarily the flame, but he's definitely going to start that fire. And I feel like that's what Sam Bennett could bring. Now, I mentioned it and kind of alluded to it, where if plan B, if Marner's gone and plan B now, okay, we got to pivot. Let's go look at Sam Bennett and maybe Brad Marchand. My idea here is Sam Bennett centers the second line and Kasper shoots back up to top line left wing. I don't hate that. I know it doesn't necessarily jive for Marco's pathway if they truly do want to develop him and get him really rocking and rolling for that 2C position. But I mean, again, Bennett's 28 years old, and I'm sure he's going to get looks everywhere if this were to come true in terms of him signing with Detroit. But I don't hate the fact that Kasper would be top left wing and Bennett would be 2C. Or does Bennett move to a wing? Who knows? I don't know. Because, I mean, putting Bennett with shoots left. So you put Bennett with Larkin and Raymond on the top line too as a look and give Kasper that 2C position. I don't hate that either. So, and I just think he makes the team that much harder to play against. And I feel like he could be a big reason why this team makes it back into the postseason, because he's going to be that fire starter. He's going to allow Larkin and potentially Raymond to go and do a little more in the offensive zone. Or he's going to allow DeBrincat and Kane to go and do their thing in the offensive zone by being that dog on that second liner, back to the Larkin and Raymond example, on the top line. So to answer your question, yes, I do think he could be a reason why this team gets into the postseason, because I feel like he could be the guy that's, again, not the flashiest, but he's a big. Paul Maurice mentioned this yesterday or 2 days ago with Jackie Redmond, and he talked about the bench, and it was awesome. If you haven't heard Paul Maurice speak, which I'd be shocked by now, go listen to this guy, man. He's unreal. And he was talking about, everyone celebrates the goals and everybody celebrates the assists. He's like, but there's a lot of hard things that happen on the ice that are underappreciated. And I feel like he was talking directly to Sam Bennett. Probably Brad Marchand too, but that's what I'm talking about with Sam Bennett. I can't really put it into words because we all think goals, assists, but there's so many other things that happen on the ice that lead to the goals and the assists that go underappreciated. And I think that's what Sam Bennett brings. And that's what makes me want to answer your question with the word yes. That was very long-winded, but I don't even know how to explain it, because just go watch Bennett play. Just go watch him play.
Yeah, no,
you know what I'm saying though? Like the stuff that it's not a goal, it's not an assist, but it's that mucky stuff. It's that ugly stuff that allows the goal and assist to happen. Like, that's what I think he could bring, and I feel like we could use it.
Oh, it's called the little things. He does the little things, right? The unappreciated little things. And who was it? There was a take, I think it was by Cronwell on Edvinson, that said, yeah, the more little things you do, the less you're going to hear your name being called. And that means essentially you're doing the right things defensively, right? And that's what makes you a good player, right? And so, yeah, that could be the case for Sam Bennett. And I'm sharing the screen of, not because just to showcase his points or anything, but look at those pins, Carlo. And I wanted to correlate this because 90 this season in the regular season, 100 last season. You know what the Red Wings were really bad at this season? The penalty kill. Do you know who had the most penalties on the Red Wings last season? It was Ben Sherratt at 69 AO.
Nice.
So that's an extra, basically 20 minutes of penalty iceman. And so 10 more penalties, let's say, if you had Sam Bennett on your team this year, right? So
that's a good look, yeah.
Our penalty kill was terrible. terrible. So I look at that. I also look at, Carlo, he's never once, I guess you can call it twice, 2016 and then 2017. 2016 he played 81, so one less game, right? So technically not a full season, but he's only played 2 full seasons in his NHL career. That's another thing that I'm a little worried about. But if you're going out and signing this guy, and that is a thing where teams will go out and get guys where they may not perform in the regular season, but by God, are they freaking dogs in the postseason, right? And that to me is Sam Bennett. That's someone I would pay to have on your team. I don't know if I would. We just talked about Marco Kasper. You talked about it. I would prefer to have Marco Kasper as the 2C rather than the winger, because I do believe that is the direction the Red Wings want to go with Kasper. So I would much rather place Bennett on the wing. I think that would actually help them a little bit more in terms of the point production.
It could. Very well could.
So, but to me, that is my one concern is if you go on and get Sam Bennett, you have to upgrade that defense in that PK instantly, because then you're just going to be collecting pins. And you're on the PK a lot.
Well, that's, and this is the part of the discussion where you start to pivot into, like, we've been talking about forwards pretty much this whole time. All the players we've talked about so far have been forwards. So, if you're going to go down the lane of going and getting Marner, you're not getting a D-man. Like, it's going to be very tough to get addressed like a top 4 D-man. If you go and get Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand, same thing. It's going to get very difficult to go and also sign a defenseman. There's going to need to be some trades, some creative trades to get a D-man. And I think Travis talked about it last week too with, you trade 13 OA for Bo and Byram. I don't think any of us hated that. I thought it was, I don't know if it's enough. I'm sure I don't think it is enough at all. You're going to need to go and throw some more things and attach some more things to it. But I think that's the path. If Steve Yzerman is going into this offseason and he's signing forwards, then he's going to have to get creative on the back end, because you're right. The PK does need to, that's a big problem. That's a big hole, and it needs to be identified. Otherwise, we're going to be spinning wheels here.
Well, and then you also, and just to correlate it too, you look at the Florida Panthers, the reason why they're able to still stay a top team and not get hurt by all those PIMs is because their style of play that they have in general, the other players that they have on their team, even secluding a Brad Marchand, all those other players on that team, they are rough and rugged people. Just their style of play is get in their face, let me dig under your skin and force feed you hate, right? So to say. So, that's why I'm very nervous about the Detroit Red Wings team, is if we get someone who does play that style of game, can we cover that on the PK end? And this even correlates with someone like Brad Marchand as well. 62 PIMs. 64 total for this season, actually, but 50 or 49, 51 points in 71 games. Words are hard today on this Sunday Scaries. This is another player. I don't think that this is a top 6 ad. I think this would be more middle 6, someone that you could insert if an injury happens, but this is someone that brings the grit and get under your skin type of player that the Red Wings desperately could use, right? And even disregard the age, right? 37, but that is veteran leadership that even correlate to David Perron that we miss. That replaces that, right? Because I do think that this team, even with the Patrick Kane, they need more Patrick Kanes, at least one more on this team. I firmly believe that. I'm not sure what everyone else thinks, but yeah, even right here, depth chart, they put him as a right wing 3. Right. So third line right winger if they wanted to, or whatever wing they want to put him on. Right. But I do think that there would be a good fit there. But the question is, does he want to play against his former teams a lot? And that's the same thing with Bennett. That's the same thing with Marner. That's also an issue we haven't touched on is, do these players want to go up against their former teams 4+ times a season moving forward? Well, touch on Marchand quick, I guess, first, and then answer that question.
Just for Marchand on playing against Boston, like staying in the division?
Or I guess Marchand with the Detroit Red Wings in general, your thoughts and opinions on it.
I love the idea of it, dude. I know he was showcased there as like an RW3, which I totally agree with. And just to envision this and give you guys, something to think about, my idea of a third line on Detroit would be Soderblom, Kopp, and Marchand.
That's great. That's a gritty line.
It's a gritty line, dude. You got a 6'7" behemoth that's very hard to get off the puck and very hard to cover. You got Andrew Kopp, who, whether you want to admit it or not, is a very good two-way player. Mm-hmm. And honestly, before he got injured this season, he was thriving under the Todd father. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him play a full season, knock on wood, under Todd. And then you add Brad Marchand to that line. How much space does Brad Marchand give Soderblom? a 6'7" behemoth who's got hands. He showed he's got hands. Like, that's the way I'm looking at it. And I think that would be a really nice fit on that third line. And that would be a really good depth piece too, because then your fourth line, I mean, we could talk about that real quick too. The players left, you got, I don't know, my idea would be Comfer, left wing, Rasmussen center, and Carter Mazer on the right wing as a fourth line. It's not terrible. Like, that's pretty deep. Just curious how Comfer would perform on the wing. But you talk about moving to the wing could be a good thing for a player. If there's a good thing that needs to happen to a player this coming season, it needs to happen to JT Comfer.
It's JT Comfer. Yeah, if it's they got to figure it out. And even going back to all these players, I mean, we're hearing the rumors that Sam Bennett could potentially garner $10 million as a UFA. I mean, Carlo, yeah, you don't think that that's even possible?
I don't know how. Like, I understand the playoff piece, but like, you brought it up and you showed his points, like 51 points. How does 51 points in the regular season, and then, I mean, listen, total domination in the playoffs, I don't want to discredit that, but does that equal 10 million? It could. I might be wrong here, but that's nuts to me.
I think what is happening too, I think a lot of what used to happen in the NHL back in the day, you got paid based on what you did, right? In today's NHL, you're getting paid based on what can you do for me moving forward, like Lucas Raymond, Moritz Seider, just to throw out a couple names, right? Just from the Red Wings perspective, right? And so I think that is what's going to happen to Sam Bennett, is he's going to get paid based on, if he wins another cup, that's 2 Stanley Cups, huge playoff performer, physical, gritty guy. That would be the reason why I see him getting anywhere from that $8 to $10 million range, is because of what he has done, not but also what can he do for us moving forward. And I think that would be the reason why he gets anywhere close to those types of numbers. I don't really believe he can get up that high. I'm kind of with you there, Carlo, but this cap going up year over year, anything is possible. And that's why I'm kind of hesitant to listen to any of these cap projections and term projections, because we haven't seen the cap go up like this ever, or at least in a really long time. So I'm very hesitant. And whenever someone asks, how much do you think this player gets for how long, I always tell them, I really don't know. If I knew, I would try to be a general manager. I do this for fun.
Yeah.
I speak on YouTube and Spotify and Apple and all these other apps, right? So, but it'll be interesting. But in terms of Brad Marchand, I think a 1-year deal, I think you can get him probably around what you would give someone like Patrick Kane. I think it would probably be easier to get Marchand than it would be for Bennett personally, but it's going to be tough to get any player out of Florida because, once again, no tax. It's so tough. But
Florida, I mean, they can only do so much. They're up against a cap too. They're up against a salary cap just as much as anybody else is. So they're going to have it's going to be very interesting to see what Zito does in Florida to keep this thing going there. Because he's done a hell of a job. And you look at what Zito's done. I'm going to shout out my buddy Darren real quick. Everyone talks about building through the draft. That guy built through free agency. Like, he built the Florida Panthers through free agency. So I just want to give Zito his flowers for a second, because he built an absolute juggernaut of a team. And it was not done through the draft.
No,
if he wants to keep that going.
Look at Mikko Nicola.
Where did he come from? Was he drafted by Florida?
Dude, he was signed. I'm pretty sure. Hold on. Let me look. Mikko.
I know he had a game last night.
Pretty sure he was a waiver.
Yeah, I just wanted to give Zito it's crazy what he's done there.
So Mikko Nicola was acquired from the New York Rangers in that Vladimir Tarasenko trade back in 2023 for Sammy Blythe, Hunter Skinner, a 2023 first-round pick, and a conditional 2024 third round.
And Tarasenko walked, and guess who's filling his shoes? This guy. Incredible. Listen, Zito is wow. This is wow. But his process is all free agency or trades, whatever, not the draft. In order to keep that going, he's up against that salary cap. Is he going to be able to sign Bennett again? Is he going to be able? I don't think he's going to be able to sign Bennett again. But can he get Brad Marchand again? He might be able to.
More than likely.
He might be able to.
Yeah, who won't want to play in a warm sunshine state with no tax, right? That's sick for someone. Real quick, last forward I actually want to touch on is Brock Besser. I actually think that this is a player I would like to see the Red Wings actually attempt to do like we'll just call it a bridge contract, 1 to 2 years, right? Maybe you pay him like $6 million for those 1 or 2 prove it deals, right? Because this is a player that He's so tough to kind of gauge with, right? He signed that 3-year deal with Vancouver. He ended up putting, not this past season, but the season before, he put up 73 points, 40 goals in 81 games, right? This season, 50 points in 75 games. The Vancouver Canucks had a very injury-plagued season. I think this is someone, I think if you put him on a team that doesn't have, I don't even know what to call it. Vancouver just never can figure it out, even with the goaltending. I mean, they've always had issues with players in the past, especially on the goaltending. And then you look at players like Bo Horvat, then you look at JT Miller. Now it's Brock Besser. Then you hear all these rumors about Quinn Hughes going to New Jersey somehow, right? And so I think Brock Besser is one of those players that could benefit being on a team that actually has good, decent talent around it. Not saying that Vancouver didn't have that, but I would say I think Detroit's is a little bit better. And then you don't have to go up against like players like Connor McDavid and all these other really good players too. Granted, the East still has really good players, but I think everyone's picking up what I'm putting down here. But once again, I think Brock Besser, to me personally, I think if you could add him in the top 6, I'd put him on the second line. You think about it like Alex DeBrincat, Marco Kasper, Brock Besser. I don't think that's really too bad, to be honest with you. And if you can do a 1x6 or a 2x6, or if you have to go up a little bit more, just convince him to come here, I'd be down to do it. Your thoughts on that, Carlo?
Yeah, I'm not opposed. I'm a fan of him, so I'm not opposed to it.
He's not exactly a small guy either. I mean, 6 foot, 207 pounds.
Yeah, he's definitely a little thicker. You want to see guys over 200 pounds. Like, if you want to be hard to play against, and again, just hard to get off the puck in that type of light. Yeah, I mean, he does check that box, I would think. For me, with him, though, it's just his contract. His next contract, such an uncertainty to me. You know, he's had a really interesting career up until this point. So then you start looking at what he's going to fetch. That part gets really interesting to me. So I think that part's got to make sense too, right?
Yeah, 100%. Let's move over to the defense.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just touch on the obvious one first. Gavrikov. Carlo, you've seen the projections. You see it being anywhere. Let's just call it a 4x6, right? We can round out that number a little bit, right? Let's call it a 4x6. So 4 years by $6 million. I actually think that's super low. If he's as good as a lot of people say that he is, and talking with people who are very close with the LA Kings and touch on them a lot, I've been told that he is very good at what he does, a very good stay-at-home defenseman who is very good in general. He could potentially garner, and it's Ken Holland. Remember, Ken Holland is now their general manager. He gave Darnell Nurse, what was that, an 8x9.5 or whatever the hell that contract was. I'm not saying that's what he's going to do with Gavrikov, but I do think if it's not Ken Holland, there is another GM out there that is going to give him potentially a 7x8. I think it'll be closer to the $8 million. I would love to add someone like him, though. If it's a 4x6, yes, go do that. Go do that, because I do think that this is a player that could help out this team and push for a playoff spot and make your PK better. It's going to make your whole entire team better, right? But it comes down to that number. And the age too, 29, he'll almost be 30. The term, what does it look like? Carlo, I know that you really want someone like a Gavrikov. I would love to have him too, but that's my biggest worry with him. But
is the term?
It's the term, right? I don't feel comfortable with 7. If it's 5 and under, I could stomach it, but then it comes down to the cap hit at that point too.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if I'd love him at 7. I'm going to be honest with you. But again, like, you put him at 7 years, he's 36. He's obviously going to be on the 3rd pairing at that point, if not the 7th, if not traded at the deadline.
But let's be honest too. I mean, the Red Wings, if you don't call Simon Evanson the top left D now, there's clearly a need there. So, and then
I don't think but are you saying like go and get a top left D? Or do you think Simon is?
I think Simon is going to be that for our team.
Yes.
Currently, right now, I don't know if you could say that. I mean, he is obviously the best left-handed defenseman on this team currently for the Detroit Red Wings, yes. But is he a number 1 lefty in the league currently right now? I would say no. But I think if
Simon?
you added, yes, correct. But I think if you added someone like Vladislav Gavrikov, you have that 1-2 punch, and if you have to swap them out every other game or do it however you want, that's depth still for your team. I mean, you have two solid left-handed defensemen right there, so I think he would be a fantastic add for this team. But that gives Simon Evanson a little more leeway, and someone even like Ben Sherrod and Albert Johansson too. So I really can make a case for a lot of these players, even someone like Dmitry Orlov. I think you could do that too. I think if you inserted an Aaron Ekblad in here, just kind of going off the cuff right now, just talking about a lot of these defensemen, I think any of these defensemen, personally to me, can help this team. talking about Aaron Ekblad again, rough, grit, someone that gets underneath the skin. Is that someone that you want on defense? Because we really don't have anyone on this team currently that can do that outside of Moritz Seider, and he doesn't really do that every game. He lays hits and everything, don't get me wrong, but he's not the player to go out there and actually rough and tumble with the opposing team. Aaron Ekblad would.
Yeah, and then we're just becoming the Detroit Panthers.
We might,
you know
as
what
well.
I mean? Yeah. Ekblad, I think, is going. I don't think we could afford Aaron Ekblad. I think he is probably going to be one of the defensemen that gets a very big payday. I'm not sure with who. I honestly, dude, if Marner walks from Toronto, I can see Toronto going heavily after Aaron Ekblad.
Why
heavily.
Why not? They definitely
going to have the money to throw at him.
Yeah.
But, back to Gavrikov for a second. You talked about, potentially him being on that top line with Mo, and I would honestly expect that. I would like to see a Gavrikov Mo run as the top line for probably a year, if not two.
At least. Yeah.
Yeah, because even if Simon's ready to be a top left-hand D-man, but Gavrikov's still performing very well with Mo, well, that's depth. Now you got a top left D-man who's playing on the second line, who could very well go up to the top line, but depth is depth and know your role type of thing, right? That could be a very good problem for Detroit to have. But I would, to your point about back to Ekblad, yeah, I would love to have a guy like that as well. But I just don't know if Detroit can realistically afford him because of, I think he's just going to get paid out. And then Dmitry Orlov. And I look at Orlov, and I know you like Orlov, and I like Orlov too. I'm very curious to see what happens with his situation when it comes to term and cap. Age obviously plays a factor in that, but he reminds me a lot of Gavrikov. They're virtually very similar players.
You know what's funny too? Last episode you brought up what would be the reason why he wouldn't stay with the Canes.
Yeah, I think we're seeing it right now.
That would be my prime reason why he wouldn't re-sign with them. But how badly does he want to win a cup, right? And I could see the Canes going full nut mode in this free agency class as well, or just doing trades, whatever it can. I mean, we saw him with the Mikko Rantanen trade. They made trades twice involving that one player. So it's very interesting. But one player that I do want to bring up, Carlo, and no one I don't think has actually touched on this guy, is Matt Grzelcyk. He's not exactly the biggest guy, but he usually does pretty well out there. 40 points. He's 5'10", 181 pounds. I'm not saying that you would put him at the top spot, but maybe in a top four situation, if you're comfortable with putting Simon Edvinsson up there on the top spot, if you believe that he's ready for that. And I think Matt Grzelcyk could be a potential option where you don't have to pay him too much. Maybe you would because that's 40 points, but you're playing with players like Erik Karlsson, Malkin, Letang, Crosby, and X, Y, and Z, right? So you got some pretty well-known names on that team. Granted, they're not the greatest team right now anymore, but yeah, this was a player who was formerly on the Boston Bruins, and we know what kind of players that Boston likes to get, the rough and rugged, hard-nosed types of players. So do you see a potential fit with someone like Matt Grzelcyk on the Detroit Red Wings? Not in the top pairing, but maybe in the top four situation.
Well, he shoots left, right? I don't know. Do you think he could play top line? Because if we're just going under the type of idea that Simon stays on the second pairing, is that a guy you want playing next to Mo? Or is this a situation where you're seeing Simon take the leap to play with Mo on that top pairing consistently, and then Grzelcyk kind of slots into that second pairing, left-handed D? What are your what's the synopsis?
Yeah, so I guess just to put it in perspective, this season he did play top pair with Erik Karlsson this year, right? So, but to me, like I mentioned, I personally wouldn't put him on the top, but I think that's the depth, right? I mean, in some cases, we may see him play on that top pair, right? And I don't think that's out of the ordinary to see him play with someone like Moritz Seider. I think Matt Grzelcyk could bring a decent amount of, not just production, but I think I just always look back at this PK. I look at how we get stuck in our own zone. We got to get players on the back end that can help us transition out of our own zone and also help us transition out of the neutral zone into the O zone, right? And so can Matt Grzelcyk do that on a top pair level? I'm not exactly sure, but playing with someone like Erik Karlsson, that could potentially be why he got a lot of his points this season.
Yep.
But that's
what do you think he gets? What do you think he gets for term and AAV if you were to go off the cuff?
I'd probably
31.
I'd
40
probably give
points.
him no more than 3 years. I'd probably give him no more than $5 million. I'm not saying that's as high as I'm willing to go, but I wouldn't give him any more than $5 million.
You think he's going to get 5? I don't even know if he's going to get 5.
No, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't give him anything more than that. And I'm not saying that that's what I would be willing to give him. But that's exactly what I'm trying to say too. It's like with this cap going up, we truly don't know what's going to happen this offseason, right? I mean, we thought it was maybe not at the time, but a lot of people thought it was crazy giving JT Comfort what he got, right? And so would it be out of the ordinary for a lot of these other players to get more than what we expect as well? Not really. Personally to me, because this cap going up, a lot of these agents realize that they're not stupid. These players aren't stupid. They pay attention. Look at what Jeremy Swayman did. He waited because he knew he was smart and waited to figure out how much he was willing to get from the Boston Bruins. Yeah, that's kind of my take on it, and that's the case for. The other thing is, I don't really particularly love this defensive free agent class. It's not the sexiest, but I do think that there are a couple options. Yes, I do think that if you can get a Dmitry Orlov, if you can overpay him for like a year or two, go and do that. I think he's going to help you get into the playoffs. Same with Gavrikov. I think really all these players could help out your back end at some capacity, but if we're talking about
make
physicality,
sense in the numbers.
Right, and if we're talking about physicality, which is what we're looking for, I think we do need more of that on the back end. We obviously need help on the PK. 5-on-5, I think defense will help 5-on-5, but it always comes down to the cap and the term. What are these players looking for?
Exactly.
And a lot of these players, they're in that age range where they're not even 30 years old yet, or maybe just slightly above it. We can X out Brent Burns right there. I don't know how much longer he's going to stay in the league, but yeah, do we really want to tie up someone who's 28, 29 to 5+ years on a contract, Carlo?
I don't know. And I feel like if we do, then who's getting bought out to make this all work?
And that's what it kind of comes down to, which we're not going to get into that sticky situation, but it's buyouts, trades. I mean, you touched on trades earlier in this episode, but yeah, a lot of, I do firmly believe that.
Do you think both buyout windows are used this offseason? We don't have to talk about who, but do you think both are used?
I think I think this could be our final thoughts, maybe not, because we still have to touch. Well, we kind of touched on the playoffs, but will you want to make this our final thoughts since you got to get going here?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll just make this into our final thoughts. Okay. I think if you got Mitch Marner, yes, you have to use the buyouts or you have to make trades because you still have to upgrade the defense. I think you still have to go get that physical player up front on the forward end. And then at that point, because you used the buyouts, or if you made trades and you didn't bring anyone back in from those trades, you will have to insert those young players. And that's how you save money in cap as well and be able to sign someone like a Mitch Marner and still bring back a Patrick Kane. That's my 2 cents, but my other option, my other route, yeah, I'm kind of with you, Carlo. I think the 2 players that have been stuck on my mind is Bennett and Marchand. But the thing is that I'm always nervous about is we got Vladimir Tarasenko after that cup run. And that's what we got out of Vladimir Tarasenko. I'm not saying that that's going to be the same case with every player that just won a cup, right? But let's say they win another cup. That's even more reason to be concerned about going after those 2 players. Personally, to me, that might be a difference for some other people, but that's just kind of my take on that. But those would.
Are you saying it's more of a concern because they're going to get paid more?
It's more of a concern because not
they're going to be damaged goods.
Paid more. I just kind of damaged goods, but without getting it like that, right? So I'm just very nervous about that. I looking at Sam Bennett's history. He's only played 2 full seasons in his NHL career. We didn't even touch on Nikolai Ehlers. I know a lot of people have touched on him, but if it's not,
you heard what Cheveldayoff said though, recently.
No,
he's going to do like whatever he's got to do to make Ehlers a Winnipeg Jet for life.
No, well,
so we'll see though. I mean, everybody says these things, so I mean, you never know. But
right, exactly.
Just giving you the context.
I'm still someone who is more on the train of I would do more trades than I would signing UFAs if I could.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
That would be my preferred take, but obviously my first and foremost want, need, and must have on this team is Mitch Marner. Then it goes by probably Sam Bennett, Marchand. I really do. I want that player on our team so that way he can go lick someone in the face. I would buy his jersey in an instant. As much as I have hated him.
It looks like he's calmed down a little bit, eh? It looks like he's kind of tempered the antics down.
Maybe a little bit, but I don't know if he talked about it, but I read it somewhere, and I do apologize, whoever put it out there, but he said, like, when he was in Pee Wee, he was never the greatest player on his team. And then in that final game, I think it was like a championship game or something, some player on the other team made a run on his brother, and essentially, just to make it short, that's how Brand Marchand knew that he was going to make it to the NHL, because him and his brother basically they turned into the Bruise Brothers and just started wailing on the guy the whole entire game. And that's how he realized that he was going to make it in the NHL. And he's no schmuck in the NHL. He still puts up points, right? And so if we can find players like those that understand their what's the word I want to use here? Not perks, but their attributes, their skill set in the proper way that a Todd McClellan wants them to do, like to an Andrew Kopp, to an Alex DeBrincat, to a Lucas Raymond, go play the way that you guys play. If we can get players like those, they will thrive under a Todd McClellan. That's my take. Those are my final thoughts. Really long final thoughts.
Yeah, but that's a good point. That's a good point. I kind of have a very similar final thought. You know, if it's not Marner, I think Marner's choice number one, and then you worry about what you need to worry about as soon as he gets that deal done. But if he's not, and he's not available, and Marner's not the guy, and you pivot to plan B, I think you got to look at doing a 2-for-1. And what I mean by 2-for-1 is if you're not getting one player in Marner, then you're getting two players to really fill out that depth. And the two players I have in mind are Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand. And then, again, there are still things that need to be done from there once you have those two locked up, and that's going to be addressing your defense. Now, in order to address your defense, you're going to need to do everything you need to do, which is going to be make some trades and probably use both your buyout windows to make who you trade for fit within your salary cap. So this is going to be a crazy offseason, dude. Like we've said it, like, oh, this is going to be a wild offseason. Like when you start talking about it, there's going to be like, you need to exercise everything you can possibly exercise as a general manager to make this work.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's exactly what I mean by, making a trade to address the D, and then using your buyout windows to make that player who you trade for work with your cap. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be great to follow. It's going to be great to cover. Those are my final thoughts, folks. And you know what? Let's hear about yours. Let's hear if you got any thoughts. Throw them in the comments. Drop us a line. We'll fire up a couple roster constructions maybe we can share with you guys next week on what plan A looks like with Marner, and then what plan B looks like with Bennett and Marchand. Zach, if you have a different plan B, you're more than welcome. Obviously, go and fire up what you think that could look like, but make it work with the construction. And if anybody wants to drop a screenshot of that, make it work with the construction. What's your plan B if it's not Mitch Marner? Keep in mind, 23-man roster is a requirement, and obviously you need to be within your cap space. Let's see what you guys got, and I'll be honest with you, a little teaser. I'm kind of doing that right now, honestly, and it's kind of nuts because now I'm at the part where who am I buying out? I got to use both, and how am I making a trade to make this all work? And it's getting tough. So let's see what you got, folks. Let's see what you got.
Look at Carlo jumping ahead. I haven't even thought about what I'm gonna eat for lunch yet today, and he's already talking about next episode.
I'm all over the place, brother. I'm all over the place today, dude. I'm gonna get on my bike. I'm all wired up.
All right, boys and girls. Well, we definitely appreciate you guys stopping by on this brand new episode. Once again, if you are returning, if you're brand new, if you made it to the tail end of this episode, we truly do appreciate it. Why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you are viewing this on YouTube. Hit the like button, hit that notification bell that lets you know when these brand new episodes get out, and all those great shorts as well. And then if you're on Apple or Spotify, why don't you go ahead and hit that follow button and then rate us a 5 stars. All those things, Carlo, they truly do a lot for us and getting our content out there to others that may not know about us, right? And so that's what we're doing this for, is for you guys. We know it's a long off season, but we truly, truly do appreciate you guys and everything that you've done for us. It's been a blessing. And with that being said, Carlo, I think we can wrap it up. And until next time, we'll see y'all on the next one. See ya.
Later, guys.
Later, bye.